All right, my friend, you do not hear this enough, but you matter. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for getting out of bed this morning with a desire to love and serve your family well. Our world is in desperate need of leaders just like you, and this starts in the home. Three nuggets that hit me from my conversation with my friend Garr Russell today were: one, having a heart connection with your kiddos; two, to stop removing discomfort from your kids. Some discomfort, some pain is okay. It is good. It is a motivator. And then number three is what it's like running a restaurant as a family. Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview truly just incredible men, fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our own craft of fatherhood. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to five kiddos, currently ages 13 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on her 21st year of marriage. So yes, I'm in the thick of it. I am in this with you, working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my new friend, Garr Russell. He's an entrepreneur, author, podcaster, husband, father, homeschool dad, just all around interesting guy, making the most of life. You are going to enjoy this father's out of the box thinking. And my hope and prayer is that it encourages you and inspires you to consider the life you are choosing to live. Enjoy meeting my friend, Garr. All right, Garr, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. It is incredible to meet you. How are you today?
Hey, brother, I'm happy, man. It's good to be on here with you. Talk fatherhood.
Good. Love it. Okay, first question out the gate. How old do you find yourself today?
I'm 47, but I feel 55
What makes you feel 55?
today. Well, so one of our businesses is we own a restaurant, and I fired one of my employees last week, and a couple others walked out with them.
Oh,
So I've
bummer.
been at the restaurant like the last 9 days training new employees. So my feet hurt.
Yeah, yep. Dang. Okay, well, I want to hear more about that. So 47, feel 55. How many years you been married?
Going on 20.
Nice, dude. Nice. So the guy who's listening to this, who's coming up on his 10th, what's the thing that you would tell him? Like, all right, you made it 10. Now what's it look like to make it another 10?
Work on yourself. Let the Lord work on your spouse.
Okay, so stop trying to change the other person. You and God work on you, and just trust that God has a better plan for your spouse or than you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like my wife said, that Casting Crown song, can we just be broken together?
Uh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. How many kiddos do you have? What's the age span?
We have four kids, 9, 11, 15, and 17.
Okay. Nice. Love it. And then where do you guys do life? Where do you live?
We are in Okeechobee, Florida, which you know the big blue dot there in southern Florida, Lake Okeechobee.
Yep.
We're at the northern tip of that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the restaurant, but I love and hate this question. Most times men, ask, hey, we met for the first time. What do you do? And a lot of times we ask the question more sizing each other up. But I love the question because it doesn't matter what my job is. When I have a 16-year-old daughter, I have a 16-year-old daughter. So it helps us understand like these moments we have as fathers, it's very similar, no matter what it is that our job is. So what is it that you do to provide for the family and provide value in the world?
Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur. We own a handful of different businesses. And the restaurant that I was referencing, we're an entrepreneurial family. We homeschool our kids. We have since the beginning. That's literally why we bought this restaurant in May. Was it's a small little diner. It's only got 15 tables in it and a little L-shaped bar, and all the family works there.
Wow. Okay. Let's come back to that. So you have the restaurant, you do that as a family, and then I see on your hat you've got the Fireside RV rental. You've been doing that for a while, yeah?
Yeah, we have Fireside RV Rental. We've been doing that for about a decade. That's a franchise that we started, and the Lord just blessed it. We have over 70 locations around the country.
That's awesome. Man, RVing as a family, let's just take a little detour here. So we live in Hawaii now, but we lived in Northern California. And my as a father, my favorite memories is like the first time I rented an RV and showed up at the house, and the kids are
Mhm.
like, "Whoa." And then when I finally bought one, I'm like, "This is ours," which is like, I would just rather rent one. I had the choice again the rest of my life
That's
because
right.
buying one is like such a hassle. Um, but I mean, you create a lot of memories for families. I mean, if a dad hasn't done this, like rented an RV and driven to Yellowstone or Yosemite or Grand Tetons, wherever, what's some encouragement you'd give them around like, bro, you got this, and these will be some of the best memories you have.
Oh yeah, it's so true. And I love that you rented an RV and just did your kids know you were pulling up to the that you were getting an RV, or you just showed up with one in the front
I
door?
think I just showed up with it. We were going to go camping and we had 5 little kids at the time. I was like, really wanted to camp because that's what I did as a kid. But it's like I had 4 daughters, a son, and my wife. And it was like our last camping experience in Yosemite. It was like 2:30 in the morning and we were in a tent and all the air mattresses are deflating. There's some college students next to us, like just having fun. And I had turned to my
Uh,
wife in the night and I'm like, yo, let's just leave all this crap. We'll just leave it, leave it. The Rangers will just take it tomorrow. She's like, no, we're not leaving. But after that, I was like, if I want to keep doing this, I got to do it in a camper. It's the only way that
yeah.
that we can do this and not kill each other.
Yeah, so we actually full-time RV'd for 5 years. So
Wow,
that's how
that's
much of
epic.
an RV advocate I am. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
we
cool.
we circled the country a couple times. We made tons of memories. I still have an RV sitting right outside my window, and we love it, man. I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than RVing with your family and just getting out, sitting around a campfire,
Hmm.
or you're out on a nature walk, or you're just in an RV cruising and you pull up all trails and you just are like, oh, cool, look, there's this random trail 5 minutes off the road. Let's go. Or one time we're out RVing and I'm like, wait, we're in Kentucky. Where is the first Kentucky Fried Chicken? I want to go to the original Kentucky Fried Chicken. So we did it. It's
That's
like
fun.
9 o'clock at night, and we get back in the RV, and I got a bucket of chicken, and I mean, just oh man, so many memories.
It's so good, so rewarding, and I love that you bring up that you were in it for 5 years. Obviously, when the kids were younger, and I think that if you're wanting to do things with your kids, or that sounds fun, I think those first few years, it's like once you hit 10, it depends on your lifestyle, but sports and friends and it's like harder to be gone for a week or two. It's not impossible. You design your life how you want, but depending on your life. So I really encourage people when your kids are little, travel with them, move around with them. Such a great time to do that.
Yeah, so true. Because once Emma, our oldest, turned 15, or she was right around 14, that's where like I had a 2-story, 44-foot park model and a Class A and another park model up in Michigan on a lake. And I was just trying to hold on as much as I could. So literally, I had 3 RVs and we moved back and forth. And yeah, it was like, all right, it's time to be done for a little bit. She's a girl, she's a teenager. She
Yeah.
wants a little bit of, consistency and some
Yeah,
friends. And
and that's good. I think somebody had said this on my podcast recently, when they're little kids, that's a great time to explore and stuff. They're just more on your time frame, but teenagers need consistency. Teenagers are
yeah,
looking for those friendships, those relationships, those consistency. So it's a little bit harder to do that. And I've got a friend right now who they're still traveling a ton. His kids homeschooled, and you can just kind of tell like it's a little rough for the teenager because it's like he wants to just like go do stuff with his friends or whatever. So, and
yeah.
okay, so let's talk about the restaurant. So we will just keep going on track here. You buy a restaurant, it's just like a retail open 7 days a week, maybe. I mean, however many days you are. That's an all in kind of thing. Like I see restaurants as all in as far as time goes. Talk about the purpose. You did it in May, so it hasn't quite been a year. What are the incredible ahas? And then what are the, okay, I wish I would have thought of?
It's honestly, this restaurant is the perfect little storm. It's
Oh,
it's a
nice.
small diner. It's only got 14 tables. We're open Monday through Saturday, 6:30 to
Nice.
2. So it's not the scenario that most people have painted in their mind, like, what are you doing? You bought a restaurant? Like the restaurant industry is brutal. But it definitely has its moments, like just right now, where I said my feet hurt. We fired one of our cooks last week that had a horrible attitude and was just dragging down the whole environment. 3 people walked out with him. And so we had to, bring on new staff. But, we're entrepreneurs and we got grit. We do hard things. We figured it out. And here we are a week and a half later and we're back to cruise mode. But it really what happened was our 16-year-old had a job at a restaurant.
Mm.
She's only getting 6 to 10 hours a week. And my wife's like, why don't we just buy this little diner? It's the oldest diner in our town. It's 75 years old this year.
That's cool.
It came with the real estate, which is huge to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she can work there full time pretty much. And we can come in and out and stuff. And it's been amazing. Honestly, people come in and they're like, all right, so how you doing? Thinking I'm going to say like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Right.
And I'm like, it hasn't felt like a job yet. It's been really cool. We close on Sundays to honor the Lord, and He's
Nice.
really blessed that. And it's been a blast. And a couple of the things that the Lord showed us, it's our mantle, it's our platform, is what He said.
Okay.
That He gave us a platform. So we have people coming in and out. We can be there when we want and love on people, and step out. And we love to travel. So we've been, even since we bought the restaurant, we've been to California twice. North Carolina, Michigan, we've done all the traveling we still want to do. But it's really cool. Our 11-year-old is in there doing dishes a couple days a week, and he's grinding, working hard. Our 15-year-old's in there prep chefing. Our 9-year-old bakes little cinnamon knots and sells them. And it's so cool. We love it. We're really having a blast.
So yeah, I mean, some cool components to it, right? Like closed on Sunday, so that's great. And then you're open 6:30 to 2:30 or 6:30 to 2, you said. So that definitely gives a sense of like freedom, and it's not like 24/7. And then you're homeschooling your kids. So to what level, when you think, because so I've got 4 daughters and a son. I'm homeschooling my son who's 16. And a lot of that was like his high school experience was just a joke. And I'm like, okay, I want to prepare this kid to be able to hear God's voice, be able to love a family and a wife, and like make money in whatever capacity he wants through entrepreneurship and business. So I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to take this responsibility on. And it's good. There is tension though, right? Like sometimes it's like, okay, like to give an example. Last night I said, hey, you want to hang out or whatever? He's like, I've been with you all day. Like I'm going to do my own thing. And then I got to be aware too, like he was just outside taking a break, hitting some golf balls, and like almost went out there because that'd be fun to take a break and hit golf balls in between podcasts. But I was like, I want to give him his space to be him and not feel like dad's always in my area. So couple questions here. Let's start with this one. When you think about your kids and you're homeschooling them, what are the 3 things you want them to know when they're done with high school, let's just say?
Yeah, the biggest thing with my kids is I want them to be aware of what's going on in the hearts of people around them. Like I want them to be sensitive. Like perfect example, my 15-year-old
so good.
The other week was somebody came in, the dude looked homeless. We later learned he wasn't, but he's pretty down on his luck. And my 15-year-old bought his meal. He's like, Dad, I just want to pay for his meal. And so we did that. And that to me right there is like, we're crushing it as homeschool parents. So that to us is huge. And on that, the flip side of that, one of the main reasons why we homeschool and we do life with our kids is because to us, the most important thing is that our hearts are connected with them. Like at the end of the day, if we totally tanked in geography, history, science, pretty much everything but reading, knowledge of the Lord, but our hearts are connected with them and we can tell like something's on their mind or heart, or we know what their passions and their gifts and talents are, like we're crushing it. Like to me, that's the most important thing. And then outside of that is our kids hearing the Lord's voice. One of our main priorities as homeschool parents is constantly getting our kids in environments, situations where they can experience God, to where when they're out from under our wing, let's say for some weird reason they decide to go to college. In my mind, it would be a weird reason. They decide to go to college, like, hey, I'm going to go pay $100,000 and go to college. Like, all right, that's weird, but go for it. They decide to do that they would be able to discern, what's going on around them, the information that's coming at them, and them have so many experiences that if they had a professor, an employer, somebody try to put other ideas and stuff in their mind, that they would have experiences that they had with the Lord where they're like, they can't be argued out of that. Like case in point with Emma, our 17-year-old, she's getting ready to go to, it's called Circuit Riders YWAM. That's January in California. So
Cool.
she's gone to YWAM for four summers now to their
For
camps.
the commission camp,
I don't know what it's
was it
called.
in Kona?
No, she hasn't gone to Kona because I think Kona isn't happening right now or
Well,
something.
it's not happening this summer, but my kids have gone to commission camp the last 3 summers here in Kona.
So she's been to Texas and California is where
Cool.
she's been every time.
Nice.
And one of the times that she was there, like literally it's the first night, there's this girl there who has scars up and down her arms from cutting.
Mm.
And they start praying, and my Emma literally watches these scars disappear off these girls' arms
Wow.
in front of her face. She can't unsee that. She can't unexperience that. She can't
Right.
unlearn that.
Right.
No matter what the world throws at her, she experienced that, and that's part of that marked her. That's
Mm.
part of her story. And so those are the things that are super important to us. Like we just brought, when I said I was in California twice this summer, once was for Emma to go to a YWAM camp. Second was I took Garrison to Bethel Church. Chris Valentin and his son Jason Valentin do like this men's retreat.
Okay.
And so I took Garrison to that. And I didn't even realize what I was signing up for because I'm not like the manly man, like let's wrestle and like jujitsu and like beat the crap out of each other. Like I didn't grow up doing any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I brought Garrison to this, I didn't realize what I signed up for. I just really like Chris Valentin. Well, part of this thing is my 15-year-old, he was 14 at the time, he does a 3-mile mud runner event. Like if I would have known that, I wouldn't even have taken him.
Interesting.
And I also, the cool thing about it, when we got there and I realized what he was getting ready to do, they separated me from him, which was perfect because if I would have watched him doing it and he would have been like, hey, dad, this hurts. Or hey, dad, like I would have seen him, like he vomited 3 times doing this thing.
Dang.
And
Wow.
if I would have seen him vomit the first time, I would have been like, all right, dude, you can quit. Because I grew up being able to quit everything. Like, oh, you went to Boy Scouts once, you don't like it? You can quit. You went to wrestling practice for 10 minutes and it looks scary, you can quit. So it was so cool how the Lord has orchestrated these things. And now my 15-year-old, he's 15 now, Garrison, he literally like cut half his finger off the other day at the restaurant prepping.
Oh my gosh.
He wrapped it, finished doing all of his work, and then came and told me. Like that dude is more man than I am.
Just for some reflection, it seems like when it comes to business stuff, like quitting is not an option for you at all. Like, I mean, to be running a very successful franchise business as well as like, oh, we're just going to buy a restaurant and run this baby, to like running a 3 miles. Where's that in your zones, right? Like this one zone is like quitting's not an option. And this other zone is like, this stuff is harder.
Yeah, I think it's right. It's like mental versus physical. Like physical pain, like, oh yeah, like I have the sniffles. I'm like, I'm out. Like cancel all my meetings, like cancel everything.
Dudes.
But yeah, but like mental, when it comes to mental and overcoming mentally and just that kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm going for it. Like we're getting through this. We're going to do it. It's going to happen. And my wife, she's got grit all the way around. So between the two of us, it's interesting.
That's great. Okay, so I love it. So I asked you on the homeschool side, what were the things that you wanted your kids to know when they were kind of like finished with homeschool in a sense? Not that you're, the goal is like we are lifetime learners, but, aware of the heart of people around them, hear God's voice, and some discernment sounded like the things that were really important to you. Say a dad doesn't have the ability to homeschool his kids, just his job, his life, he doesn't quite have the same design structure as you. What are a couple words of encouragement you would say, like, hey, maybe you're not, with them for their schooling, but here's a couple things you could think about or do before school or before bed or when they get home from school? What are a couple things that you would encourage a father? Hey, this is your responsibility. Don't just dump this on the school or youth group or whatever.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about being a dad. You got to really mess up for your kids to not look at you like you're their hero. You can even screw up with your kids and they'll interpret it in a way. Right? I remember like my dad was not the best dad growing up and my parents were divorced and he was supposed to come pick me up and I got all my bags packed and I'm ready and then he doesn't show up. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, he must have like had to work and somebody really needed him. He's probably out saving the world. Like I would still justify So that's cool as being a dad, right? It's not as bad as you think, first of all. And then second
It's good.
is quality over quantity. I mean, you could give your kid 15 minutes of undivided attention and totally enter their world, and that is going to fill their love tank up to full. So for those dads out there that you're working 10, 12, you know, plus hours, 6, 7 days a week. If you give that your child 15 minutes undivided, your phone is aside, you're just hearing about whatever their passion is, right? They're passionate about Tonka trucks, and you're just sitting there all out, just Tonka truck playing with them, or they're passionate about video games. So you just mash out on video games with them for 15 minutes. Like, don't discount that, because
Mhm.
we discount that thinking, oh, that's not really going to make much of an impact. And so then we don't do it. But it does, man. It is so powerful. Just those real deep quality time over, it doesn't have to be, all right, we just spent 4 hours throwing the football. No, it could be
Yeah.
15 minutes. And in that quality time, it's all about them. You're not
Mhm.
correcting, you're not fixing, you're not educating, none of that stuff. It's just shoulder to shoulder. You're in their world. Like my 9-year-old Isabella, she loves art. She loves art to death. So her and I sit down for 15 minutes and do art, and that's made her day.
That's so good. I love how you said enter their world. We always don't have to invite them into our world. We can enter their world. Another thought just that I had too, like depending is I have found a ton of value, dads, like if I got to run to Home Depot or I've got to mow the lawn or I've got to do something, even though like I could get it done in a half hour, if I bring my kid along, it's going to take 40 minutes. They love coming and doing your stuff with you as well. So some value there. Gar, what would you say the role of the father is?
There's definitely many rules, lead, guide, protect. But I would say that the most important goal, and this is actually what the Lord has shown me for my life, outside of the entrepreneurial spirit that I have and all the things that I've accomplished and want to accomplish, this and that my primary goal, I literally have it on a post it next to my wall here, and it's on my
Hmm.
mantra that I read to myself out loud, is to prepare my kids to fulfill their calling. And so
Hmm.
it's a simple statement, but then it goes deeper, right? Because my primary role, and this is for my wife and my kids, is to help them fulfill their callings. Well, first of all, I got to know what their calling is. And then, second of all, I got to know, okay, what gifts and talents do they have to help them fulfill that calling? And how can I help them grow in those gifts and talents? And we actually have a mantra that we've created for our kids. And it's, first of all, it's their general calling, right? To know God and make them known is like their general calling. It's all of our callings. And then next is their specific calling. Like, what are they called to do specifically? Like Emma, my oldest, she's a missionary to orphans. We've known this since she was a little girl. The Lord has shown us this. Noah, my 11-year-old, he's going to be an entrepreneur just like me. Even Garrison is entrepreneurial too, but Noah more specifically. And then knowing, okay, for them, like what are their specific gifts and talents that they have, and how do I help them grow in that? So, like for Emma, for part of her homeschooling, I just had her go through this course and get certified as a youth mental health coach,
Oh,
so
cool.
she could understand like how kids are thinking and why they're thinking, and how do you help pull out those thoughts and process those thoughts. And then for Noah, I have him read Proverbs, because I want him to be wise like Solomon as a
Mhm.
businessman. So for me, that's what I feel the primary purpose is of a dad, and really of a mom, right? Is to help prepare our kids to fulfill their callings.
Mm. So beautiful. So before we were kind of talking about homeschooling, and then we were talking about if a dad doesn't necessarily have time to homeschool their kids. And we talked about spending one on one quality time with your kid. I want to pause here too and go, as a dad, knowing your kid's identity, and even if, say they're going to school, you could still go, hey, this kid has a bent towards this. So I'm going to find them this certification through X, Y, or Z. Or, my son is this. So I'm going to, like right now, we're using some of Jordan Peterson's Academy. We're using some of Masterclass. We're using some different things that I know are towards my son's bent calling, gifts and abilities towards life, and starting to build upon those. But dads, you can do those even alongside of, and then depending on your kids' ages too, I think you leading the charge spiritually, like when your kids are little, like doing little Bible studies with them, when they're older, doing Bible studies with them, doing stuff as a family in that realm. I think as fathers, we have this great responsibility to do that. Any other things, Gar, that you would say in line with that ability of a father to be a part of their kids' learning process?
Yeah, there's just like you said, right? With taking them to Home Depot and letting them experience just being with you and being in that environment. And yeah, so we try to do like Garrison, my 15-year-old. We got him a devotional and it was written by a fisherman because my boy,
Mm,
he's an outdoorsman, he's a fisherman, And then what we were doing with the kids before we bought the restaurant is we used to all serve on food drives together.
mm,
So we could serve side by side and they could see people in want and need, be sensitive to the, because that's one of the things I think that is so lacking today is just a sensitivity to the world around you, right? Like even you see a homeless person and what most people say, like, now don't give them money. They're just going to go buy drugs, or don't do this or don't do that. And so then they do nothing, right?
mm.
Well, that's a whole conversation started with your children. They're like, hey, here's this person, what do you think we could do to potentially help them? Like there's just so many learning opportunities around. As me and my boys last night, we were driving around. We like to invest in real estate. And so me and my boys went, we got some food and we were just driving around the neighborhood and looking. Then we started talking about credit. And they're like, well, what's credit? And Garrison goes, oh, I heard our cook has a 96 credit score. He's really happy. He's going to buy a car. I'm like, dude, credit scores start at 350. So a 96 credit score is not even, so I was talking about the credit bureaus and stuff and just little things like that. And really part of it too is right, just assuming our kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Mhm.
Because a lot of
Yep.
times as parents, right, we don't even have these deeper conversations because we're like, there's a guy that I follow, Pedro Adeo. He's doing this 31-day wisdom challenge right now. And one of my favorite speakers, Chris Valentin, was on there yesterday for day 7. And day 7 was talking about, beware of the seductress and she's in the
Mm.
streets and this and that and all the things. And so Chris was just talking about how like, man, we've got to step it up. Like, we shouldn't be embarrassed to talk to our 5, 9-year-old about penis, vagina, all these things that get brushed under the carpet. Like,
Mhm.
these are all things that should not be shameful conversations. Like, we got to be more open and have these conversations. And there's just
Invite
so
them
many
into the
learning.
conversations. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Gar, when did you embrace fatherhood? So, I hear dads, they're trying. They find out, oh, we're pregnant. They're stoked. They're like all in. Or it's like the day the baby's born or the day the kid walks or throws a ball or whatever. For you, when was it where you had a realization or an aha that it really mattered that you showed up for these kids?
there's a couple memories that jump to the forefront of my mind when you say that. The first one was our first child, Emma. We lived in Michigan at the time, and she was born in December. When I grabbed that car seat, put it in my vehicle, and then I got on the snowy highway and had to
Yeah.
drive home,
Uh-huh.
that was memory number one. Like, oh, shoot, this is real. Like,
Yeah.
I ain't
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
try to pass anybody. I'm right laning it. I might even put my hazards on, like, baby, I'm bored. Snow is falling. That was definitely an aha moment for me. And then another one which was with Emma, was March 2 years ago when my wife and I decided to quit drinking, when we decided to
Mm,
remove alcohol from our life. And what happened was, I was actually listening to a Tony Robbins teaching, and he was talking about how pain is the ultimate motivator in life.
mm,
Like, we don't move until
mm.
it's too painful to stay in the current situation. Then we move towards pleasure, right? Like, you don't start deciding, all right, I'm going to go to the gym and lose weight until you're like, holy crap, I'm 300 pounds. I can barely walk. I'm in such pain. It actually sounds more relieving to start exercising to lose weight, to actually get some of my physical fitness back. And so he calls it a pain stack. And so what I did this pain stack where I just started writing down all the negatives of me drinking alcohol,
Mm.
like dehydration. I lose motivation, my sex drive goes through the roof, and I start looking at my wife more as this, not the full thing of who my wife is, just I start looking at her sexually. And then the one that hit me, where I literally March 17, 2023, I said I will never drink again, was my 14-year-old daughter. At the time, I thought, my daughter has a social life now. What if she was somewhere and she was uncomfortable and she's called me and said, hey, dad, I need you to come get me. I feel unsafe right now. and I couldn't because I was drunk.
Mm.
And right then, March 17, 2023, I thought, I'm never going to drink again. And literally, that was it.
Wow, that's really good. Those moments, significant moments of my responsibility to these humans that God placed in me, whether I'm driving or the drinking. Something interesting, you're talking about Tony Robbins, pain is the ultimate motivator. What do you think about the level of pain we remove from our kids? I'll give you an example so you know what I mean. My son had ACL surgery this year. There's moments in the last few months where you could just tell he's like bumming, right? He's not riding his dirt bike, he's not doing his stuff. And to some level, I'm like to his rescue, to his rescue, to his rescue. And then lately I've been trying to just give him space to like figure it out on his own. And so like one interesting thing for me is like I play acoustic guitar. I'd love it if he did. But like if I ever
Mm.
suggested it as an option, he would just be like, no, thanks. No thanks. And I had taught him when he was like a 10 or something. So he knew enough, like some basic chord. But then just randomly, I think the boredness finally just hit him the other day. And now he's been playing for hours on his own, on free will. Like there was like almost like enough pain of boredom that it's like, what else can I do? And this came as something. So as
Wow.
parents, I think sometimes we want to continue to rescue, rescue, rescue. What are your thoughts on that? Just a little wrap about, allowing your kid to experience pain. Because if we remove it all, then does it remove motivation for things like playing guitar? Simple example.
Oh, yeah, totally does. Someone that I follow, Josh Latimer, he gets excited when his kids get in painful situations. When they get in a situation where they got to clean up the mess they made or, whatever, because he knows that pain is going to teach them. Like pain is such an educator. We're proponents of that. I love, and we read a book years ago. The guy's name is Danny Silk, and it's called Loving Your Kids on Purpose.
Mm,
And he does such a good job of teaching how to allow kids to walk through pain. And most times, what do we do as a parent? A kid does something, and we're irritated, we're ticked off. You're grounded. You're this. You're that. Right?
mm,
We just release these consequences on them that really teach them nothing, and then we move on. Well, what Danny does is he's like, "Oh, what are you going to do about that? Like that's quite a situation you just put yourself in." And so he allowed his kids to walk through the pain of the choices they make and experience the consequences and then clean up their messes. Because, right, a lot of times as parents, our kids make a mess, we clean up the mess, and then we punish them. Or we try to hold them from pain. And, so we don't allow them to walk through certain things. But we've learned that pain is such a good educator, pain is such a good teacher. Man, we've had so many scenarios where a kid, hey, you have to do this, here's your chore. And what would a parent do? They get frustrated or they don't want, they feel bad because the kid's like, oh, I have all these chores. I have no friends. Nobody likes me. And then we totally bite and then we do it for them. I think pain is such a great teacher. We've got to let our kids walk through pain. It's literally, and we call it grit. My kids will all say, Mom, they're like, my wife's name is Tina. They're like, Tina's got grit. It's like a joke
mm.
in the house because
That's
Tina will
cool.
let you feel the pain. And so that's literally one of the questions on our franchise application. Do you have grit? People will be like, yes. And then I ask them, like, what does grit mean to you? Like, explain grit. Explain a situation where you had to use grit,
Hmm.
and normally that's a painful situation that you weren't rescued from and you had to walk through it.
Mm. So good. So good for us to have grit and for us to teach our kiddos that same thing. We talked about the role of the father, but if you had 2 minutes to talk to a new dad and you had these 2 minutes just to pass any wisdom on to him, what would you say to him as he's stepping into fatherhood?
We always have a fear of messing up, right? We're
Mm,
going to mess this up. And so what I tell parents is don't worry because you will. You
mm,
will mess it up. You will screw up. You will make many mistakes. We'll say like, "Oh, our kid's going to need counseling after they're, done with us." And it's like you could do the best job and they'll still need counseling,
right.
right? Because your kid is unique. They have a specific brain chemistry of a way they see the world and interpret information and all this kind of stuff. So you just have to keep that in mind. You do the best that you can. And like my wife is really good at, when you mess up, tell your kid, hey, you know what? I actually
Mhm.
messed up on that one. That
Yeah.
was a mistake on my end. Sorry, I shouldn't have yelled at you. You know what? I should have asked you for more information before I just handed you this punishment. And it's so true because I call it a reaction versus a response. We're so quick to react in the moment instead of like process, take a minute. I'm elevating my emotions. Let me go think and then come back and respond. But to know when we do that, we have to repent to our children, to
Mhm.
teach our children that, hey, it's okay to screw up and okay to ask for forgiveness. And just know, Dad, you're going to screw up. You're going to make many mistakes, but let your children see you apologize to them, to your wife, to others. It's such a powerful thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the reality is like we are humans, we are going to mess up. Let our kids see that to whatever, levels appropriate at their age and then apologize, work with them, let them see you growing as a human so that they'll follow that same path of like sanctification, right? This process we go through of life being a child of God. What was your relationship with your dad like? So, what's something, just two questions around that. What's something that you valued and appreciated about your dad? And then what's something you wish he would have done differently?
Yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was in fifth grade, and my dad he was a playboy. He was off living life with all these different women, this and that. So, not the best relationship. Now we talk every week. We have a good
Mhm.
relationship. But the best thing I remember of my dad was his hugs and kisses. Even though some of them, because my dad was always drinking, like I remember like smelling alcohol on his breath
Mhm.
and this and that. But still, the simple fact of just, man, just a hug from my dad, a kiss from my dad on the head, like that to me was
Mhm.
so special and
Yeah.
is so special. And that's one of the things that I've really, since it meant so much to me, that I'm so good at doing that with my children, physical touch
Mhm.
and loving them and hugging them and kissing them. And I think that is so important. I mean, there's scientific studies out there about physical touch and what it does.
Mhm.
I was actually just studying this several weeks ago because I was studying the laying on of hands,
Mhm.
and where it talks about like impartation through the laying on of hands and being baptized in the spirit and so I started walking this through with Chat GPT, and I'm like, wow, because you read studies about like babies who are just left in cribs at orphanages and they have all
Yeah.
these issues. So like there is such a power of the laying on of hands, physically, spiritually. It's just a phenomenal subject to me. So that to me was something that my dad did well, and I remember, and I walk in strongly with my kids. Something that my dad didn't do so well, and which I'm just realizing right now that I don't do so well as I say this, is keeping my word. Like, oh yeah, we'll go do that. Tonight we'll all go do this. Tomorrow we'll all go do that. Like empty promises. And I do that a lot with my kids, and my kids will remind me, even though we do a ton together, what I need to do, I'm realizing right now as I say this, is I just need to be careful how much I make those promises
Right.
because those mean the world to my kids. And I could make less promises and actually be doing better instead of making a bunch of promises because I desire to do all these things, but then not being able to fulfill on all of those.
Yeah, I can get caught up in that too because it's like I think a day has 100 hours, and then you have five kids or four kids ask you, "Hey, Dad, can this that?" Oh yeah, yep, let's do that. Let's do that a little bit
Oh yeah,
later.
we're doing
Or
that for sure.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
happening.
So
Yeah.
then I make 10 hours of commitments, and there's only like 4 hours in the evening before it's time for bed. So I can
Yeah.
definitely get caught up in that. I'm trying to get better at just saying like either no or tomorrow or whatever, right? Like, because I wrestle with that same thing you're talking about. Isn't it funny though how when asked the question about our dads, like what we wish they did differently, it's like, man, like my dad worked a lot and I love working. You know what I mean? Like I love it. It's I enjoy it. So I can find myself, like yesterday I was in the office because nobody was around, nobody needed me. So I was just working some more. My daughter walked by. She's like, "You're working still?" I'm like, "Yeah, but what am I gonna go do? Watch TV? Like this is what I want to do." But it's interesting how we do what our fathers did, which is important for men listening right now. It's like there are things that you hope your kid will do differently. You better just do them differently because your kid's going to
Yeah.
likely do very similar to what you do. So if you want different outcomes for your family, then you have to fight for it for yourself. That's the best way to pass it to your kiddo. Gar, this podcast is fatherhood field notes, like really opening up your life. And you've been doing that, sharing your life so that we can all learn and grow. Is there any stories or anything that's like been popping in your mind as we've been talking the last 45 minutes You're like, hey, I really want to make sure this story gets out, or this idea around fatherhood or marriage or family. Anything come to mind that you would want to talk about or share before I jump into a few more questions?
Throughout the couple questions we talked about, there has been something that's been popping up in my mind in regards to heart connection.
Mm,
My 17-year-old, she just turned 17 the other week, and she had her first official boyfriend, and she ended up losing her virginity. And the Lord did so many beautiful things out of this. But the thing when I talk about heart connection that is so important is she called me to tell me. And when she did, how I responded, I just told her I was so proud of her for telling me. And I just reflect on that moment, how that literally, that could have been a moment that could have completely severed our heart connection.
mm.
I could have said something that could have marked her for life and wounded her and just given the enemy just ammo to just fire away at her for years to come. It's just so important, that heart connection, that our children know no matter what happens, we love them, that we're their dad, that we accept them. And in that moment, man, being able to do that, it was so powerful. And how the Lord healed her heart. Man, do not lose that heart connection with your children. Just be slow to speak, because we can so easily say something. In one of my books that I wrote, my real estate story, which is all about my entrepreneurial journey, I went to my dad with a business proposal in fifth grade. And I can remember perfectly
Mm.
when he called me lazy when I told him my idea. Because my idea was, hey, Dad, I need $500 so I can buy mowers and my buddies can push the mowers around while I run the business. But I'm an entrepreneur and my dad isn't. So
Mm.
to my dad, that idea was lazy. And it wasn't. It was entrepreneurialism. It was being an entrepreneur. No, Dad, I'm going to run the business. I'm not going to push a mower. And that stuck with me for years and years and years to come until I got freedom from the Lord on that. And so it's just, man, so important to take a breath or count to
Mm.
three before you react in those moments that can literally be life altering for you and your children.
Yeah, how would you say if a dad has a 10 to 13-year-old or whatever, they have a kid, what are the things that they can do to cultivate the relationship with that child, that when their child is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30, that they know that if they come to their dad, they can come to their dad with anything? What are a couple of things that you would say in the quote unquote smaller thing?
I forget what book I read this in, but it's so good because so many times we build our kids up by affirming them through accomplishments
Hmm.
instead of the ingredients that are inside of them that
Really
brought
good.
about that accomplishment.
Right.
So, right, your kid gets an A on the test, and right, what do we do? We're like, man, great job on that test. You nailed that test. So we're affirming that accomplishment of that test. So what happens when they get a C on the next test? They're going to think, oh, my dad isn't going to be happy about this.
Right.
What about instead of saying, hey, great job getting that A, saying, hey, you got an A, cool. But what I'm more proud of is I saw how much effort you put into studying for that test that
Yeah.
resulted in that A. I really appreciate how you focus on things that are important to you. And so it's just that little bit of tweak of, instead of celebrating the accomplishment, celebrating the character behind that accomplishment. And just something little like that. And two, that physical touch, the hugs, the rubs, the kisses, like we underestimate that so much,
Hmm.
especially as dads who didn't receive that
Right.
from dads. That is so affirming and so powerful to our children. But even as the right, especially a boy, girl, right? Their daughter, she starts wearing a bra, or boy starts, the boys start changing. We think, oh, they must not need that anymore, right?
Hmm.
We start looking at them, oh, they're a young adult now. It's not true. It's just as important now as when they were, 4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 42, and it's like if I'm doing something with my dad and he puts his hand on my shoulder, it means something to me. It matters, right? It validates, like, he cares about me.
That's what got me studying that physical touch, because I'm at my men's groups and church and this and that, and a guy would come up and just kind of pat me on the shoulder. And I was recognizing, I'm like,
Mm.
man, that really feels good. That feels
Yeah.
affirming to me. And so that's what took me down that road of studying this physical touch and the laying on of hands and all this. So I'm doing this all day at the restaurant, more with men than women. I'm walking by, he could be an 85-year-old man and, hey, morning, brother. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Knowing that he's getting that same feeling that I'm getting because that's how God wired him.
Yeah.
He wired him to have that need. So it's so wild.
So good. Man, well, thank you for sharing all that. So, this podcast, Fatherhood Field Notes, the mantra behind it is rebel and create. So, what's something that you're rebelling against? And then what do you hope to create in its place?
Man, we're rebelling a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I would probably say that the biggest thing that we're rebelling against is a lot of modern education because especially at the restaurant, I've been seeing this recently. People will come in and my kids are there, they're doing their homeschool and they're working in the restaurant. And people are like, well, don't you go to school? Why aren't you at school? And then other people are like, this is brilliant.
Right.
This makes total sense. But a majority of people, it kind of confuses them. So just modern education and what our kids should be doing. I would definitely say that would be one thing that we're rebelling against, how kids should learn.
It's so good. I mean, our whole system is very interesting. It's so interesting. So the fact that you're giving your kids a different perspective, but really to critical think, communicate with others, be aware of people's hearts, where they're at, be connected as a family. This idea of doing life together. I love that. A question I've been starting to ask is one day, your kids are, they're still teens, age, young, but at some point, 10, 15 years, there's going to be four other kids that enter your world, right? Your children are going to get married and start their own families. When you see that on the horizon, how do you want to show up for those son in law, daughter in law? What kind of man do you want to be? What kind of like father role do you want to play in their lives?
I think I want to make sure that I'm an encourager,
I
that I'm
like that.
not giving advice, that
Mhm.
I'm asking, hey, how can I pray for you in this situation? What
Mm.
do you believe in God for in this situation? What do you think the word is showing you about this situation? Just right instead of because we will have wisdom to give them,
Mhm.
but I want to be able to restrain and not just puke out, hey, this is what you need to do.
That's
I
good.
want to point them to the word and to the Holy Spirit and the Lord and say, I'll be praying for you guys as you walk through this situation together. And then if they ask for advice, give it then. But I don't want to be the one who's, I see what's happening here. This is what you need to do.
Mhm.
Which is interesting too, because, one of my main prayers lately is out of Hebrews 5:14, where it's to grow and walk in discernment. Because Paul's talking about to the believers, and he's like, hey, you guys aren't even moved on from milk to the solid things. Like you guys need to grow in discernment. You guys are still on these foundational things. I want to see you move on further. So to me, one of those things is be able to discern for my children and their spouses and children, discern that moment, but know how to encourage them in it instead of just saying, oh, I see what's happening here. This is what you need to do. Like for your son with the guitar, like you knew this would be something. I walked through something very similar with my daughter that literally just the last several days. We've got a guy coming to our restaurant to do a worship night.
Mm.
And I've known my daughter was called to do worship her whole life. I have pictures of her as a little girl, wanting to do this, but then she got some church hurt and stepped away and blah, blah, blah. And then just the other day, she's like, hey, that thing at the restaurant, do you think he'd let me come sing a song? Just so here I am holding all these tears back in the
That's
back of my head,
awesome.
like I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. Do you want his number? Right?
Mm.
Instead of being like, oh yeah, he would be there at 6 o'clock and
Yeah,
I'll
let me
order.
work out all the details for you.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's like I'm finally getting it. Like,
yeah. Man, that's so good. Okay, imagine 30 years from now, you're peering into the homes of your kids. They're married, they have children. What is it that you see being played out inside their homes that just puts a big smile on your face, a tear in your eye, and you're like, okay, I showed up well for them. Not perfect. I showed up well.
man, you were halfway through that question and I already the answer already jumped out my mind. I just see laughter. I look in and I
Mm,
see
so
laughter and
good.
joy. If there's not laughter and joy in your home, that paints the picture of everything else that's happening.
Garr, thank you so much. Where can people learn more about the restaurant or learn more about Fireside RV rental? Where can people learn about your books?
GarrRussell.com, GarrRussell.com.
Beautiful. All right, my friend, thank you for the man you are, the husband you are, the way that you fight for your family, fight for your kids, love the world. I just speak life, love, and blessing to you and your family. Much love this new year, and I look forward to our paths crossing again.
Amen.
All right, until next time. What an incredible conversation. I really liked when we talked about the homeschool portion, like what's the thing you really want your kid to know? And this doesn't even have to go along with homeschool, but even you and I, what's the thing that we really want our kids to know when they leave the house or when they're kind of like done with this being raised in our home? And I really loved the aware of the hearts around them. Like, are you aware of someone else's state, art, are you able to have empathy for them? So good. All right, my friend, if you haven't already, please just take a minute and write a review. It helps spread the word that fatherhood matters. And then maybe shoot a text to a friend saying, hey, you're a great dad, and check out this podcast. I think you might enjoy it. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.